Hey everyone, I'm going to talk about one of my characters today, and this is going to be a really interesting video, I feel like, because I know that not many people usually just talk about characters and then well they do, but it's like with an artwork or something and doing a speed paint while doing it. I'm not gonna do that because I don't think people really would like my artwork as much, even though I'm okay, I'm fine with it. But well, I'm gonna talk about fucking one of my characters today, and who's the character I'm gonna talk about? It's Haruki Takeshi, one of my favorite characters. He's my favorite, and why is my favorite character? That's what I'm going to talk about today, and also about my, I would call it, I like to write, okay? I like to write, and he was my first character that I first drawn. Well, not first drawn, but he was my most important character in PC when I was drawing when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and I really liked him. He was like, I don't know. And I did a lot of changes to him. I can't speak. I did a lot of changes to him because people were really bullying me over this guy, and I understand why. I can see my own eyes that he has the most obnoxious, like colorful stuff, and I get it. I get it. You guys cringe a lot. You guys think it's edgy. You guys think it's a emo. I don't know. It's just I get it. I understand that, but I don't care. I like this style, so I can't really do much about it. I always like this style. I myself have similar styles when it comes to stuff. And the style came when it was like the era where it was just so popular and everyone wanted to have that haircut, everyone wanted to have that clothing, and I made him when that was pretty much the case. I just really liked that style before, and I stayed with it. I stayed with it for him because it's an artifact from the past, man. It's just so important for me that it was just so important to me then. And now I'm like, oh my god, I can actually buy the clothes that I wanted to buy back then, but I didn't have any money for it. And I didn't have any places to get it. But yes, I fucking love that style. I love the black. I love the chains. I love the even the crosses stuff. I like it. I like it a lot, but I even love it more if there's some really colorful stuff in it. And that's when I was like, you know what? Put some green. I see red, I see purple, I see blue. Let's put some green. And that's how I went with him. Um, yeah, this is the drawing stuff, but when it comes to writing him, I do think I would go with more realistic stuff. More realistic as more of like black hair and just brown eyes, and maybe the clothing would be more colorful, but I don't think he would be able to buy stuff that I think I would want him to wear in his teens because I made him to be poor. He's not that rich, right? So when he's like going into his like 18, 19, 20, I think that's when he starts getting more like middle class with his dad. So that's why he starts wearing clothing that is more, the style I was talking about. So when it comes to him, I would say I started writing him as a teenager, but then I really liked the adult stuff too. I'm not talking about porn, I'm talking about the adult stuff, like adult writing stuff. Like I like horror and stuff. I like the edgy stuff a lot. I like tragedies. I like fighting and powers and fantasy and all of that. I love it. And well, I can't really do much with a kid because I don't want him to be, too traumatized, but I still need him to do the things I want him to do. And I didn't want to over sexualize this character either, which is why, and when he's about like 18, 19, he's gonna wear more risky clothes, but before that, no, I can't. I can't let him do that. He's just a baby. He can't do that. Okay? He just no. So yeah, I did some changes as I got older. I didn't want to, make him too weird. I don't know. Um, yeah, I didn't want that because I felt weird about it. Even though I'm just 19, but I still feel like I don't want to see a 15-year-old in that. Anyways, yeah, I pretty much the changes while I got older with him. So he used to be looking really edgy, more edgy than this. He used to look even more edgier. He used to look fucking edgy as fuck. But then I went, I maybe I could down a bit. And I do think that I would redraw this drawing too because this was like 2 or 3 years ago when I drew this. So I don't even think that he would have this much insane stuff. But I do think that the core of green, red, black would fit him. Even now, I would go for those colors for him because those are the colors that I would go for him because that's the iconic stuff he would wear. But also maybe yellow. I don't know. Maybe those colors. So yes, pretty much like all these stuff. I loved it. I just made this like, oh, it's so cool. I know it sounds so stupid, but it's exactly what I wanted to do. And I still really like close like colorful colors. Like I like them so much. Anyways, I wanted to talk about the fucking story. I want to talk about the story and the elements of the all, not just him as his design look wise. So the story starts off with him going to high school. So he starts off in high school, but then I was like, well, I really want him to, get a fucking job, do the dancey stuff I wanted to plan for him. So after the high school stuff that comes, and then comes the fighting stuff. So this is like the like first like thingy that goes on. So like his teenage years are the first like major thing. It's very long, I think. I think this would be the longest one because I do think that his younger adult years would go away pretty fast, but his adulthood also would be pretty much like a bit slower down because a lot of shit happens then. So this is the longest one though, because a lot of things happen to him while he's a teenager. So I think things would happen. I don't know if he would start off at like 16 or I think so. I don't know. But that's how the story starts off. And he pretty much is 2 weeks or 3, 4 weeks into his like school year. And he already has a girlfriend because obviously he has one, but the girl is cheating on him. So it's not looking really good for him because of that girl is not being really faithful and she's just playing around with him. She wants him to buy stuff for him even though she's having other people she sees, you know. And he's really bad at that, and that's when the thing comes out of him sometimes, which is just not liking that girl makes him sometimes sound pretty sexist towards ladies. A little bit that I would call it. Um, That changes, of course, throughout the story. He becomes more respectful and nicer towards girls, but in the start, this really bad experience makes him like, fuck girls, I hate him so much, but they are so pretty. So that's exactly how it is in the start. And that's when he meets, one of his like new friends. And well, I would call it like a friend, but he, he's not, I would call it like, yeah, he gets a really fast crush on this guy in like really fast, and it's all down here from here. It gets really bad at some points because this guy is not the bestest person, and he's also like a troublemaker bad boy, I guess. But he's actually a bad guy. He's not just like a hot bad guy. I wanted to give him this not the best experience with this person because toxic people do exist, so I wanted to give him someone like that. So he gets turned into really bad like direction. He starts doing things. He starts not going to classes as much. He starts doing a lot of, I don't think it's crimes, but like bad things overall, like drinking a lot of beer, like not going to school as much, having a lot of issues because of the teachers. Like they, not many of them like him, and it gets pretty shitty for him at some point because he also has some stalker. Also, he has a stalker that is really bad for a teenager to have a stalker. It's really bad for him, but yeah. And he also has another thing going for him, which is he's able to heal people. He's able to heal people. But that only happens after he gets his power. Before that, he doesn't have that, but everyone in his, oh, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have powers already in his school, so he's really insecure about this. It's not as much of a Deku situation, I would call it, because when it comes to him, um, getting a power is really traumatic in this universe. Everyone who gets powers get really bad things happen to them while happening, and it can ruin someone's like future too. If you get a power like Ice powers, like some of these powers really just ain't good. And even though they are really good at fighting and helping citizens out a lot, it just it's really bad because a lot of criminals have it too. So it's like, well, it's pretty bad. Yeah. So this is one of the things he's really insecure about at first because of that. But after he gets his power, I do think that he becomes more, how would I call this? He becomes even worse, okay? He becomes worse. He starts off doing things, even worse things sexually, and it's just not going really well for him because people call him a slut now because he does these things. And then there's the guys that keep on wanting to be his ass because, well, you can't just straight out be into dudes too and girls too and not be treated like shit even in this universe. I guess even though there's a lot of queer people in my universe, there's just a lot of them because a lot of people who has trauma gets fucking powers and a lot of queer people have powers, so like have trauma. So it's just, it makes sense in the scheme of things in this world that a lot of people are queer who has powers, but there's also people who are just assholes who still exist in this world, a lot of them actually. So he gets treated like shit by these people who just don't like the fact that he's sleeping around with other people too much. They called him out on it. The teachers are again up in his ass. Everyone is treating him like shit. And that's when they, it's just a year passes, I guess I would call it. And the first years are now pretty much coming and into the fucking high school. And there's two guys, or like three guys, who are really important in this group that are really just gonna make things even more mixed up in the group because Haruki Takeshi already gets in a really big problem, a really big argument with one of these new students who pretty much is YOLOing it because even though he's supposed to be younger with 1 year, so he's supposed to be a first year, he can just straight up go into the second year, even though he's not, he's just such a good student that the school is like, well, he's also rich, so why the fuck not give him this opportunity? Because his parents are rich, so he's rich too, so he could help the school out somehow, you know? And that's exactly why they put this new guy into his class, Takeshi's class. Even though even though we know how bad that class is, because how did he turn out? Everyone turned out really bad. Well, some of the girls didn't, though, but it's a pretty bad class, and Haruki Takeshi already has a really big ego at this point. He has a really big ego, he's really slutty, he's really bad, he badmouths people, and this guy who just comes in and he pretty much just tells him that you shouldn't just kiss in school in front of everybody. Like, even the teachers seeing you, like, you shouldn't do this. And he's already like, well, so you're homophobic, a bitch. And that's exactly how they start, by a fucking misunderstanding. Because he's like, well, you're just like those guys, huh? It's so funny to me. Yeah, that's exactly how they start off. And that's why they didn't really get along pretty well. And that's a reason why he really thinks that this guy is also homophobic, because he's dating a girl that straight up just treats Haruki like he's just some creature from a different planet. So obviously he's gonna think that this guy is also like her, right? Well, spoiler alert, no, but he doesn't know this, so he treats him like shit. And I really think that this is how I think the audience would realize when I would write this, that oh, he's not always right. He's actually kind of dumb sometimes. He's actually kind of he's wrong. He's kind of antagonistic right now. He's doing things that shouldn't he do? Like, he's just doing, like, you know maybe being an asshole to him, then new guy wouldn't be good and start bullying him, and yeah, that's not a good thing, especially if you know that he also did go through a lot of bullying, so it's not good to do that, but he does it anyways because he's up sky high, he's completely gone at that point, and this is thanks to a lot of anime too, because he's in really bad influence when it comes to him. So yeah, this shit is going down really bad. There's also two new guys, Inori and Robert. Inori is pretty much like, he's really similar to Haruki. They're really similar when it comes to personalities, but Inori is more like a better version. I don't mean to be a dick to my boy, but he's not as much of a dickhead, I would call. Like, he's more nicer, but he still has some anger issues, so it balances out. And then we have Robert, who's pretty much is the one who is the reason why Haruki Takeshi changes completely from someone that's a really big dickhead to, oh my god, this guy knows that I'm being an asshole and is trying to ruin my life right now. The thing is with Robert is that he's a nice guy towards anyone except him. Except him. Him, he treats like shit behind the scenes because he knows how he acts. And they are both really similar in a lot of cases. Obviously, as Robert is a really good manipulator, he makes a lot of people in Haruki's life turn against him. And I mean, and it gets really bad because the group starts to like split a bit and they start arguing a lot. And as this is going on, I mean, it's starting to become worse in a way. Like he becomes really angry all the time. He wants to fight these guys a lot, and it gets pretty bad. And it's only Haruki Takeshi who's actually like, "Well, I'm here for you, dude. Like, what is going on?" Obviously, shit gets really bad, and we get learned that Amin has some depression, some really hard depression, and all of this mess that is like turning against him everyone, and everyone treats him like he's an asshole, and he is an asshole, but like he also has really bad mental health issues, which is why he's kind of a dickhead a lot. So yeah, he has this thing going on, and the only one who supports him is Haruki. And then, well, this guy just straight up like tries to unalive himself at one point, and Haruki is the one who saves him. And then they have this whole thing going on where Boy finally tells the group that how he feels, that he's sorry, that everything is just he's as an asshole, and he tells them the whole trauma dump situation right there. And I do think that that part of the story is really interesting in a way of, well, this guy is really toxic towards the main character. He's supposed to be this type of guy that you hate a lot as the person who reads the story, because, well, he's treating the main character like shit, and he's supposed to be the love interest. So what the fuck is going on? Well, spoiler alert, he ain't that much of a love interest for me. I made him a love interest, but in a way of, at one point he will be the ex-boyfriend, more of like the love interest. So he will break up with this guy at one point, and shit's gonna get better as he will break up with him, and the guy is gonna get better as well. Redemption, I don't know. So that's what I was thinking with this. And that happens, yes, but I do think that they need to have a really big argument first to really just they need to have that talk. They need to talk about this shit. And they do. It's pretty much what happens. But there's the other story element, which is what happens when it's like in the third year, I would call it, or almost in the third year. I would call it more of like it's just going into the third year. It's not a new year yet, but it's just going there. So we also have another plot line that I didn't talk about, which is the new guy who was I talking about, who the homophobic stuff, who has a girlfriend. Her name is Grace. And Grace is Haruki Takeshi's rival in every fucking way, but Haruki doesn't even know because he doesn't see her as a rival at all. He just sees her as, well, it's a girl, she's cute, but I don't know, she's kinda a bitch sometimes. So that's how he sees her, right? But she sees him as a fucking rival. And her homophobia is pretty much coming from a lot of places, but I do think that even though she has a redemption, it's just she just really dislikes dudes. I would call it like that. She really don't like men, and she don't understands it when other men like men, because she hates men. So why are you liking men? I hate men. Men suck. And yes, she's straight, but she has really like tendencies of hating dudes a lot. That's what I'm trying to say here. That she's not secretly gay or anything. She just really dislikes men, which makes sense because she has a really bad backstory too. It's awful. It sucks really bad, but that's not an excuse for her actions, obviously. Um, but there is another excuse I'm gonna make, but that's not about the thing that she's against dudes or gay people. It's about her, I would call it like demeanor and the whole thing that she would be a villain or something. She's not a villain. She's more of like a rival because she's like a nurse. She's able to fight really well. I think she's more athletic than Haruki ever will be. And she just has a lot of skills that he does not have. She's also really smart, and Haruki just, yes, he ain't the smartest sharp in the fuck. You know, he's not the smartest one. But the thing with Grace is that even though she's really hating dudes, she has a lover. And this lover is the new guy. And she's in love with him. But the thing is with this thing is that even though she's in love with him, he doesn't love her back. And that's where a lot of this dislike even comes from, because she also had a really bad experience with another guy. But I'm not gonna get into it because it's not yet. There's a first engagement thing because of Grace's family and the guy's family. I'm gonna call him Kane because that's his name. So Kane and Grace has this engaged thing going on that they don't want to get engaged, and then they don't want to have this thing. But Grace is okay with it. She tries to deal with it. She kind of likes the guy, so it doesn't really matter for her. She's like, okay, I'm gonna try my best. But if someone gets in my way in this relationship, I'm gonna be really pissed off because I need this for my family, and I don't care. You know, I don't care. And Kane is really against this. He hates this idea. He hates this thing, even though he agrees on a lot of things his family does because he doesn't want to be like treated like shit. He has really strict parents too. But he also has another reason why he's really against this marriage. And as I said before, a lot of characters in this story are queer. So why does this guy not wanting to marry her other than, not wanting because he's not in love with her? Yeah, he ain't attracted to her at all. He isn't at all. And as I said, there's a lot of problems when there's a character that hates men who's against kind of gay people. The guy she's dating turns out to be gay. It's gonna be a lot of mess after that. Especially after I tell you what happens in the actual marriage thing. Well, Kane's best friend just straight up like steals the guy from the wedding. Like when they were about to tell like yes or no, he just goes in with his motorbike and whoop, stay you boy, and then whoop, go. And Grace watches this shit. And the problem is, Kane didn't even talk about this at all. He didn't tell her how he felt because he didn't want to hurt her feelings, like a people pleaser thing. And he is a people pleaser a lot. So obviously, this pretty much fucks Grace up so much. But at this point, she already made friends with Haruki. They already had this redemption thing going on because I think Grace is the type of person that if you educate her about stuff, she's gonna be more understanding. And she did. And Haruki just treats her really well, like a really good friend. Like they are really besties and stuff because the guy, even though the guy started off being really sexist and dick and really mean, he gets redemption while the thing's going on and he becomes a better person. And as he spends more time with girls, he becomes more understanding and reasonable. So Grace helps him to don't hate girls that much, and he treats her to not hate men and other queer people. So it's basically a relationship like that between them. And that's exactly why Haruki is the first one to actually help her out when she's crying a lot, and she's first time crying, right? Like she wouldn't cry at all. Just the first time, and that's when she needs this friend really well, really much. And yeah, it's a really cute thing, but yeah, it becomes really sad after a while. A lot of shit happens in that place and time. And then there is something else that really big happens. And this thing happens when things are starting to get better. Like characters already made up, there's no longer drama as much, and things are seeming fine. That's exactly when one of the main characters get killed. So I didn't talk about this at all. But there's some mysterious serial killer who's killing these teenagers in the fucking high school. And I didn't even talk about this the entire time. But yes, there is one. There's one character that's just doing all of this shit. And all of this drama is going on. And people are fucking dying, basically. And the group ignores all of that just because they have their own struggles, right? And then they realize this shit is real when one of their friends straight up turns out dead. And Haruki is the one who finds the character being dead. And it's really traumatic for him. And I don't really talk about it much, but he also is able to see ghosts. So a lot of characters, a lot of people hunt him throughout the story. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to fucking find this fucking killer. This is when he gets enough. And he's like, you know what? Fuck this drama. I don't care about this shit anymore. I want to find who hurt my friend, right? Even though he didn't really get along with them before as much. So yeah, that's basically what happens. That's when shit gets really dark. Before that, it was just random teenage drama, just people being stupid, people being like, well, you know, it's just people dating, people being stupid, people being, and then things happened out of nowhere. I mean, it was nowhere. It wasn't nowhere because the entire time shit was real behind the scenes. A lot of shit happened, but they didn't know. So yeah, after that, there's more characters that just straight up just don't get the happy ending because obviously not everyone will. While some characters are trying to move on from the sudden deaths, others just straight up just a bit just give up in life after that. It's very sad, but also the adult part, I would call it like 25, 30 years old. That's when they fighting, right? They're fighting over who the serial killer is. They're trying to find everything out and figure everything out. And Haruki is the one who tries so hard in this. But the problem is that he gets accused too. So even though he's trying to solve the case, he gets accused a lot and gets turned against the group because there's some fucking masterminding going on. So obviously they gotta just turn shit against him. There's someone is just turning everyone against him, even though he's trying to figure everything out himself. And that's exactly how kind of different the teenager part his story is and the part where he's actually trying to just desperately find the person that did the things, the bad things, and the group slowly splitting apart. People just straight up, some of them just die, like get killed or something happens really bad, and it's 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 a really it's a really I don't even know how to call it. The dark things come out after it becomes more of like an adult fiction than a fucking teenager young adult fiction. So that's how I would do it. I guess I go. Okay, I guess I would do it like that. There was also one thing that I was worried about, that there were really too many characters. Like there's too many characters. What am I going to do? There's too many characters. But some people said that you can write about a lot of characters. That's not a big problem. That you can write about as many in one like setting as you want, as long as you just don't fuck it up. Like you don't fuck it up. Well, I solved this problem by making a lot of characters um, classmates, and who's not classmates with them is still part of the story in some way. There's more characters that are classmates though. That's why there's a lot of characters, mostly from the same class, because, well, those are the ones they're gonna bond with or hate them, or, that's how I wanted to do things. There's also the parents, there's the siblings, and the other bullshit stuff that not many people care. If they care, then it's just, it's just there. And I do think that Haruki is like pretty good when it comes to character development, because he goes from a really bratty, like rebellious dickhead who's kind of sexist. I was saying that, to someone that's actually, hey, he's not a okay guy. What the fuck? He's trying to help his friends and you know doing all of these things. And yeah, he pretty much is starting off really bad, halfway through really shitty, like in the teenage part. He's kind of shitty at some points. He's kind of, but then he gets better over time because teenagers. I was a dick too. I mean, I still am kind of. So it's just that's how it is. And I also feel like the love interest thing. I I was doing this while I wanted to give him some ex partners, because I do think that a lot of teenagers do date, and some don't, but like I don't, but some do, and that's what I did for him. So I give him Kat, the girl who cheats on him. I give him Amin, the guy who is his bestie, but then they fuck once and then he turns into an asshole towards him. So that's exactly how some people are, just straight up a demon after a while. Then you get the character that's just. I also had another ex planned for him, but I don't know if I'm gonna just put him in there or not. That guy wouldn't been that bad of a person, but I didn't know if I want to include him or not, because after, I mean, he could have dated this guy, but what if it will be that it doesn't make sense anymore in the story because I already made my mind clear about something. Because I originally planned Kane and Haruki to be together. That was the main thing I wanted to do, but then I realized that they don't fit as a couple, because you know there's reasons why they just don't really fit in as a couple. They're more of like a friends thing. So I didn't really do that. But that's where there would have been a character introduced that was dating Haruki, and that guy would have been like, well, why don't you love me, man? Why are you always dreaming about someone else? Why am I with you? And that's would have been another one where you would have realized that he's being a dick again. But now that I made Kane have a girlfriend, it's a better plot line, because he gets to self discovery all the gay stuff for him, because that's exactly one of the reasons that I just I wanted Kane to have something to do, because I was so lost what to do with Kane at this point. But Kane is really important, even though I'm talking about it like, well, he's just a new guy. No, he's actually one of the reasons why he gets character development in the first place. Because he's there. So, yeah. He is friends with Grace after a while, Kane too, but shit happens, right? As I said, someone fucking dies. And after someone dies, things get really bad. So the more like tragic things and the bad things happening while they're more older, I wanted to do that because, I just felt like it. That would make more sense. I guess that would make more sense. So, yes, that's why I made some changes to the story, I guess. And there's a whole like mystery element to some things, I would call it, because it's like that. And then there's the thing where there's some horror elements as well, because he can see dead people, and he can also, you know there's these serial killers that are just there, and they are just there, and they are scary, and you don't know when they're gonna attack you, and you don't know who they are, so it's pretty scary. There's also the stalker situation. There's also more antagonistic characters in the story that I didn't even talk about. But the story starts off with the teenage stuff, which is really important, because the teenage characters become adults, and that's when things got fucking real. And that's exactly why I really like this story, even though it's kind of messy. It's a lot better than My Little Pony Fangam was. That was really bad. I didn't even know what the fuck I was talking about. But at least this one has something to it, because I made my mind and I did some changes. I didn't just fuck around like a dumbass. So yeah, I was talking about the story a lot, but Haruki is really part of all of the story. He's really important to it, and his personality is it's just it's just a really bro-like dude, like a really friendly guy. He talks like, "Hey, what's up?" Like, I feel like such a good fuck me. I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying, but yes, I am. I don't know. I just think that kind of like voice lines, like dialogue, talk, stuff would fit him a lot, because that's how he would talk. Like, hey, hey, that's what he would talk like. Oh God, I'm being cringe again. Yeah, that's just what I did. I guess he's my favorite character because I actually put some time into him. I actually did. So, yay! If you wanna hear more about him, I can make another video or just talk about him for myself. That's okay too. I have a lot of time. A lot of time.